Alright, this is John Kohler with OKRaw.com. Today I have another exciting episode for you, and this episode was filmed at the Woodstock Fruit Festival 2013, where I got to interview 9 of the other pioneers and myself, so that's a total of 10. The 10 reasons why you should go from a high-fat raw vegan diet to a low-fat raw vegan diet. First, I want to define the terms. What is a high-fat and what's a low-fat raw vegan diet? Some people in raw foods may advocate as much as 40% of calories from fat, such as Dr. Gabriel Cousins, who does the lean, green cuisine diet. And he advocates lots of calories actually from fat, 40%. Even more so, a lot of standard raw foods that get new into the movement tend to overeat nuts and seeds and oils and can eat 60% or more calories from fat. That, in my opinion, is definitely not good, and I wish people that made gourmet recipe videos on YouTube would stop making ones that have such high levels of fat. It's not healthy, in my opinion. In any case, let's define what high and low fat raw food is. So in my opinion, high fat would be maybe like above 25%, and the low fat would definitely be below 25%. So according to the Woodstock Fruit Festival, when the pioneers got together actually last year, we determined that according to the Woodstock Fruit Festival, low fat means 25% or less from calories from fat. Some people that you'll hear in this interview advocate actually around a 10% or even less than 10% calories from fat. So with that in mind, let's get into this clip and share with you guys the 10 reasons why you should go from a high fat to a low fat raw vegan diet. So now we're with Durian Rider. His website is 30bananasaday.com. He's been into raw foods for 11 years now.
You'll have more energy. You won't be needing to take cacao and coffee and all that stuff, the stimulants. You'll lower your candida issues. You'll have better mental clarity, be able to focus better. You'll have a lot more energy, like I said in the first one. Your digestion is going to be a lot better because fat is just so hard to digest. You won't have glucose exhaustion anymore. You'll get more nourishment, and you just got to look and feel better. You won't have the greasy hair and skin as much.
So now we're with Megan Elizabeth. You can learn more about her and check her out at meganelizabeth.com. Be sure to check out her YouTube videos as well. At Megan Elizabeth on YouTube, she has some fab videos, if you know what I mean. She's been into raw foods for over 5 years now.
Well, I think a lot of us get into eating raw food either because we have health issues or we want better athletic performance, and the best way to do that is to reduce the energy that you spend on digestion. And fats take the longest to digest out of anything, more time than protein, more time than carbohydrates. So if you lower the fat in your diet, then you will have more energy for the rest of your body to heal and be active and everything, and you won't be wasting so much energy on digestion.
So now we're here with Tim Van Orden. RunningRaw.com is his website. Been into raw foods for 9 years.
Because that's what all the cool people eat?
I don't think that's acceptable.
Well, there are certain raw food gurus that wear ponchos and stuff, and they just don't look all that healthy. But if you look at the people that are eating a low-fat diet, really simple foods, not a lot of superfoods, not a lot of gourmet stuff, just real simple, fresh produce, a lot of fruit. Just look at them. They're fit, they're lean, they're healthy, they're vibrant. I look to the examples. Are they walking the walk, or are they just talking the talk? Because there's a lot of people talking the talk about gourmet foods and superfoods, and you look at them and it's like, why do I look like that? Like, you look at the people here, everybody is fit, everybody is lean. Well, not everybody, but a good portion of the people. And those that aren't are becoming fit and lean. You know, they're in the process, they're on the journey. So, and also you just feel better. When you eat a really complicated, fatty, cashews, walnuts, almonds, everything, you know, a lot of coconut oil and all this stuff, it just slows you down. You don't feel good. For me, it's all about performance. Like, I eat and then I have to train. And if what I ate slows me down, it makes me feel sluggish, I can't train, and my performance is going to drop. So I eat a diet that allows me to perform at a high level, and that's this diet. And all the cool people eat it.
So now we're here with Freelee the Banana Girl. Be sure to check her YouTube channel out at Freelee the Banana Girl. She has tons of videos and they're really well watched by lots of people, and even I check them out sometimes. She's been into raw foods for the last 7 years now, and
it's just like night and day. The difference between a high-fat raw foods and low-fat raw foods is just, it's so much better to be high-carb and low-fat, because if you have too much fat sludging up your bloodstream, then the sugar, which is what you run on, the carbohydrates, won't enter your cell properly, won't get to your brain. You won't feel as good, you won't feel as energetic, you'll feel lethargic, you want to sleep most of the day, because every cell in your body runs on glucose. So you need that constant supply from a low-fat source. So excess fat in the blood is not a good idea, and you will feel the difference. You can do the test, do 30 days high-fat raw and 30 days high-carb raw. You will notice a difference, and you'll prove it to yourself.
so now we're here with Dan McDonald, aka DTM, or the Life Regenerator. Be sure to check him out on YouTube. He's been into raw foods now for the last 13 years.
The low fat I really like. I like the no fat for periods of time. I just did like a 24-day juice fast, and that was really fun, no fat. That was great. That gets a lot of electricity flowing. I actually switched from a low fat diet to a high fat diet for a while, and I really enjoyed it. And I like what I learned because I was let out of the fat prison, okay? And that was important, to be let out of the fat prison, okay? This is bad and good, evil, right and wrong numbers, counting, and all that stuff. Because, you know, the fat can be very useful as a tool. Let's say we're going to the airport. Do we really want to absorb all that radiation and insanity at the airport? No. So before you go fly, you have 3 or 4 avocados on your salad, buffer yourself out, or you can go through periods too where you may want to just put on a little weight. So interstitially, the fat will kind of sit there. So it's not high quality tissue, but you look a little bit plumper, and if World War III came, you're going to last a couple more days because you're going to burn off that interstitial fluid. So your athletic performance may be affected if that's your thing. So it's not bad or wrong, it just is what it is. So when I'm in more of a spiritual phase and I'm at home and I don't have to deal with a lot, I can go on a no-fat diet. I enjoy it. I run around the house like crazy cleaning. I go exercise. But then there are other times when I want to use the fat as a tool to sort of buffer the radiation, the energy, so that I'm not picking up everything. You know how you're on the airplanes and you're in the airports and the whole thing just feels like a nightmare? A few avocados will really settle the nerves a bit, you know? You may go through a day of sluggishness if you're really tapped in. So again, fat can be just used as a tool to, like, I know my friend Lou, he eats he's the most successful raw fooder that I've ever met, and the strongest, most powerful human being I've ever met, who hardly needs to sleep and never gets tired, and is a 60-year-old kid, you know, but he uses the fat to sort of bring himself down, otherwise he goes too high up. So it depends on the nature. Most of us don't get that high because we don't get that energetic clearing of the chakras and the light bulb fully turned on. But when you do, a lot of my mentors have had that. Well, there's only a few of them. But then they use food to keep them down. And I've known a lot of yogis too that have reached those states of enlightenment. And then they have to use those heavier foods to sort of keep them down on earth. So there's no right or wrong. It depends on the context. So, you know, but personally, like, I do roll with the low-fat diet right now. I'm probably about 20% fat in my day-to-day thing, but I also do periods of just juice for, you know, a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks where I just drink juice or I just eat fruit. And so it all just depends, you know?
All right, well, that's the answer.
That's, you know, that's a real thing right there. It's tough. That one is really challenging to understand. You have to get to know yourself, you know, and there are different times to bring in different types of food. Winter, I definitely like eating more fat. There's no doubt about that, because I've been out there freezing cold and I can eat a couple of cups of hazelnuts and just be steaming with no shirt out in the 20-degree heat, because the fat creates friction, heat, viscosity. And that's good when it's freezing cold out there. You do not want to be eating like citrus fruits when it's 15 degrees in Michigan. You know, you're just out there and it's miserable. Just knock back a couple avos or some nuts and seeds. So again, like, it's too bad that we can't go long, but get your education on and use yourself, practice, and see what works for you.
So now we're with Christina CarrilloBucha. Her website is fullyraw.com. She's been eating a fully raw vegan diet for over 8 years now.
I will give you two answers to that question. Number one, I was almost high fat for the first 6 months of me going raw. I was constipated for 85% of the time. And when I switched to a low-fat raw vegan diet, my system started to flush itself out faster than I'd ever seen in my entire life. Normal people go once or twice a week, and that was me. And now I go 3 to 4 times a day, and it feels amazing. I'm not clogged up, I am not held back, and not only that, but when you eat a high-fat diet, it weighs you down, you feel tired, you have less energy. So not only do you feel weighed down in your stomach because things aren't moving, but you have less energy. So it's going to A, keep you clean on the inside, which makes you feel fresh on the outside, and your energy will go through the roof.
So now we're with Dr. Samuel Karski. It's drsampt.com. He's been to raw foods for the last 15 years.
I think one good reason to switch from a high-fat to a low-fat raw food diet is because most people that are long-term raw fooders have figured out that a high-fat raw food diet does not work for overall health. It may taste good, it may make you feel high at times, but overall, if you're looking for long-term health and wellness, then the high-fat raw food diet does not work for most people.
Now we're with Dr. Doug Graham. His website is food_sport.com. He's been into raw foods for 35 years now.
I think the big reason for going from a relatively high-fat diet down to the healthy recommended levels, which are from between about 3 to 10% of your calories from fat, is for your health. Okay? It's a health matter. I mean, if you want to keep eating food, if you want to keep playing games, if you want to keep meeting people, you got to be healthy enough to do so. And all of the health scientists are in agreement that a low-fat diet is in our best interest. We're going to do our best at transporting oxygen through our blood vessels to get to our cells. If you can't transport oxygen, you're setting yourself up for cancer development. You don't get clear thinking in your head. Your muscles don't respond like they're supposed to. For me, low-fat diet is the only way to go because I've tried both ways and I know how I feel. It's all about the health of the issue. People come to me with skin problems and they say, my skin is dry, should I eat more fat? And I tell them, you know what, probably let's try eating less fat. And they look quizzical, you know, but at the end of the day, when they try it, their skin just clears up and actually looks better. I don't have one reason for eating more fat than you need. There's no health reason for eating more fat than you need. So instead, focus on carbohydrates. Get your sugars from fruit, whole, fresh, ripe, or organic plants, and it'll work for you. Basically, I'm one of those guys who goes after what works, and low-fat or relatively low-fat, single-digit fat consumption seems to bring the greatest health results.
So now we're with Don Bennett, DAS. His website is health101.org. He's been into a fruit-based raw diet for over 20 years now.
One reason would be to live to your health and longevity potentials, to be optimally healthy. If you don't care about that, then yeah, more fat the better. Eat a 10-80-10 diet. That's 80% fat. You know, if you don't really care about your health. But if health is your focus, if you want to be healthy in the future and have the best health that your DNA will allow you to have, yeah, you don't want to eat a high-fat diet. You don't want to eat a low-fat diet. You want to eat an appropriate fat diet, as a lot of people refer to as a low-fat diet. You don't want to eat a too low-fat diet either. I know some people who do that. They say, okay, fats are bad, no avocado, no nuts, no seeds, no anything. No, durian, no, that's not good because that has too much fat in it. And they end up too low in the sense that they don't get enough, maybe just not enough of omega-3 fatty acids. So yeah, durian's good. Durian's your friend. I mean, if you don't eat 5 of them at once, you know, but it's a tropical fruits, and the tropical fruits tend to be a little higher in fat than things like grapes and apples and the temperate zone fruits. So yeah, you want to eat an appropriate fat diet. That's what I call the diet I eat.
So now that you've heard from 9 of the other pioneers, I'm going to share my take on the subject. My name is John Kohler. I've been into raw foods now for the last 18 years. You can check me out atokraw.com, which is where you're at maybe right now watching my videos. So in my opinion, the one reason why we should go from a high-fat to a low-fat raw vegan diet is simply because if you're eating fats, you're going to be eating less food, so you're concentrating your calories. 1 gram of fat has 9 calories, 1 gram of protein or carbohydrate has 4. So literally you could eat twice as much. In addition, the fruits and vegetable calories that you're probably displacing by eating more fat calories are more nutrient dense. They contain more phytochemicals, antioxidants, vitamins, and minerals than just the fats. So for example, if you ate 1 tablespoon of oil, and I don't care what kind of oil, raw, organic, virgin, cold pressed, stone ground, olive oil, raw coconut oil, hemp seed oil, any kind of oil is 120 calories per 1 tablespoon. So if you eat 120 calories of 1 tablespoon, or you could eat like 1 nice-sized large banana that's probably like 120 calories, The banana has a lot more phytochemicals and phytonutrients, whereas the oil, 100% fat, man. In addition, if instead of eating, the 1 tablespoon of oil, you could eat like probably 1.5 heads of romaine lettuce. And that has a lot more phytochemicals and phytonutrients. So the more fat you eat, you're displacing more of the calories, and now they cannot come from fruits and vegetables, or you will be overeating. I see many people eating a high-fat diet, raw vegan diet, eating far too many calories because the fat calories start adding up. I mean, people are just shoveling down handfuls of nuts in a sitting, and I do not recommend that. So to get into this further, how much fat should we eat? Should we eat 10%, 25%, 50%? Well, one of the arguments that's often given by vegans and vegetarians on why you should not eat animal products is because of the protein issue. We don't need that much protein. If we look at human mother's breast milk, it's about 5 to 6% protein by calorie. On the same token, let's look at fat. Mother's breast milk is about 50% of calories from fat. So in my opinion, we should never eat more than that amount of fat. That being said, we're not babies and we're not trying to double in size. I mean, maybe you're a wrestler and you are trying to double in size. You might want to eat that much fat. So we should never eat more than 50% fat by calories. So that being said, how much should we eat? Well, we know it's somewhere between 0 and 50%. Some people in the low-fat raw vegan movement will want you to believe it's 10% or below. I'm kind of a little bit more moderate and want to ensure I get enough fats, because the weakest point of any chain is the weakest link. And if your weak link is you're not getting the appropriate kinds of fats or enough fats, that's going to make you weak and you're not going to be as healthy as possible. One of the things I like to think about is that every cell in our body and our brain is actually made up of mostly fats. I mean, the lipids in our cells, the outer cell walls are fats. And if you don't have enough fats in your brain, your head, you're not gonna be operating properly. So the kind of fats that I recommend are, number 1, a whole food, minimally processed source of fat. So, whole food form is like nuts and seeds, avocados and durians, other whole foods. I do not advocate the use of the oils. One of the things I have seen that if you eat enough leafy green vegetables, you can get enough fats from your diet. The problem is most people don't eat enough leafy greens. My goal is to eat 2 pounds of leafy greens a day, especially for those essential fats. The omega-3 fatty acids are really critical. There's essential fats and non-essential fats. We can make some fats, but we need to get some from our diet. The omega-3s are critically important based on my research, and the standard person in America, even many raw foodists, are not getting enough omega-3s. This is important because they're eating the wrong types of fats. So not only is it important that you get the right type of fat, but you want the right ratios of fat as well. So that's why I would encourage people to focus on some omega-3 rich fats. So you want to get the right kind of fats as well, and I believe the omega-3s are super critical. I mean, even if you're eating nuts and seeds and you eat almonds and sunflower seeds, which are often used in raw nut patés and gourmet recipes, those could really off-balance your 3 to 6 ratio, which will jack you up. So we not only want to get the right types of fats, whole food fats, we want to get the right kinds of fats, right kinds of essential fats, favoring the omega-3s instead of the 6s. So for me personally, I tend to eat about 15 to 20% of my calories from fat, and this is, you know, I don't calculate it every day. What I do is my diet consists of mainly fresh fruits and fresh vegetables. I have about a handful, maybe 2 at most, of nuts and seeds a day, and that's how I get my fats. I feel great on this diet. I want to encourage everybody to eat the appropriate amount of fats for them. You know, the strength of a chain is determined by its weakest link. Fats are super important and critical. We get an ideal amount for us. We don't want to get too few and, you know, maybe restrict all fats because they're evil, but we don't want to get too many either. So hopefully after watching this episode, you've learned 10 reasons why you should go from a high-fat raw vegan diet to a low-fat raw vegan diet. You know, many gourmet raw food recipes use nuts and seeds as the base and oils, you know, as the main source of the calories. I've seen some raw vegan recipes, you know, on YouTube online that are 60% or more calories from fat, and I definitely believe that is not healthy. I want to encourage everybody out there that, you know, eats more than a handful or 2 of nuts and seeds a day to, you know, minimize the fat content and make recipes that show more fresh fruits and vegetables without the oils and a minimal amount of nuts and seeds, which I think can be healthy in right proportions. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more videos like this where I interview other pioneers at the Woodstock Fruit Festival, as well as have, you know, videos on my own spreading the message about eating more fresh fruits and vegetables, because that's what I truly think it's all about. So once again, my name is John Kohler with OKRaw.com. We'll see you next time, and remember, keep eating your fresh fruits and vegetables. They're always the best. Alright, this is John Kohler with OKRaw.com. Today I have another exciting episode for you, and this is going to be the one, if you live anywhere in the San Francisco Bay Area, you will want to pay attention to.